Door knocking is one of the best ways to generate consistent listings, and by the end of this video you will have my entire blueprint of how I built an 80% listing focused business as a new agent in a new city with no sphere and no money, and now I've used this same process to help a ton of other agents be able to generate listings and seller leads within their first door knocking session. So I'm going to break this down in its entirety for you, so by the end you can literally leave and know exactly what to do, where to go, what to say, what time, everything you need in order to have an effective door knocking strategy. Now, right now is one of the best times to be door knocking because of the NAR settlement and how that's changing buyer commission. We know that things are evolving, and one of the best things that you could start doing is to transition your business to a more listing focused business. Now, don't get me wrong, cold calling works incredibly well as well, but for me, I found that I converted way higher with door knocking. And the reason being is that you can show up, you can bring energy, and it's way easier to build a connection with somebody at the door. And also the rejection is a way less harsh because people are pretty nice. So let me walk you through the entire process here. So this is what I'm going to walk you through in this entire presentation. And if you have any questions throughout this process, just drop a comment below. My team and I will be responding to every single one of the comments to make sure that you know exactly what to do. So first I'm going to talk about the mindset. This is essential. It is key. It is so important. So we're going to be breaking that down. The second is going to be the strategy. Third is going to be assets and attire, what to bring when door knocking in order to make sure that you convert. Location. So I'm actually going to pull up my MLS and show you how to identify the perfect location and the perfect street to door knock based on data. Then we're going to walk through timing, when should you door knock, the script that you should use, and then the most important part, which is going to be the follow-up, how to make sure that you actually convert those conversations into clients and thus close deals. But I just want to kind of emphasize the fact that this is what I actually did myself. So every single one of these listings, this is just 6 out of many, but these are all listings that I personally sold from door knocking. So this was about 670,000, 600 or just over 700,000, over 700,000. This was 680. This was 520, and this was about 570. So all of this was in my first year from door knocking, right? Even though these show listed, I did sell all of them as well. I just no longer have the sold graphic on my computer, but this really works, and I did incredibly well with it. And I want to make sure that if you're going to muster up the confidence to go door knock, that you do really well also. Now, I want to talk to you about the importance first about just getting started, because all of those listings that I got, that I sold, that helped me make over $100,000 in commission in my first year was using this atrocious flyer, right? I can't even call it a flyer. It was something I printed off at my old engineering job. I printed off about 1,000 of them. And it's this terrible graphic that I personally made on Canva, right? Now, over time, as you're going to see in the next photo, I evolved and, kind of improved my door hanger, but you have to get started, right? I didn't wait until I had the perfect door hanger to go door knock. I just got started. I door knocked the very first day I got licensed in the evening after my engineering job in -10 in the snow. And that's how I actually got this listing and this listing, again, over almost 700,000 and 570,000 the very first night I was licensed from door knocking with this exact flyer. So make sure you understand the concept that I live by, that done is better than perfect, and you don't have to wait until you have the perfect everything to get out there, because clients are waiting for you, and if you're not going to strap up the boots to get out there, somebody else is, and they're going to take the clients from you. Now, as you can see here, these photos are all still on my Instagram to prove that I actually door knocked, but you can see here how I evolved. So over time, what I did is I ended up creating a 2-sided actual door hanger that I would leave if somebody didn't answer answer the door, which on one side would have my unique value proposition, and on the other side actually had a call to action about me being a specialist in this specific area and some of the work that we did in order to get other homes sold in that area, which might not be your properties. They could be other homes that sold within your brokerage that maybe other people did, right? So there's some creative ways that you can leverage this, but I improved it over time, but I got started regardless. So let's talk about the mindset. One of the biggest things people struggle with door knocking is the mental barrier. Their fear of rejection. And a lot of this comes from the feeling of soliciting. Most people really struggle with door knocking because they feel like they're annoying people or soliciting or bothering people. And the concept that I always like to kind of shift people's perspective with is, if you had the cure for cancer, would you keep it to yourself? Or would you be out there knocking every single door, hoping to God if somebody within that household has tested positive for cancer, unfortunately, that you're going to be the one to save their life, right? Now, that's a bit of an extreme example, but if you have a service, if you have something that helps people, and you've got full confidence that it's going to be helpful to people, you are going to go feeling like you're bringing a valuable service to people instead of soliciting and annoying people. Now, that's the mindset that I went into door knocking with, and that you should go into door knocking with, is that instead of feeling like I was soliciting, the perspective that I had is that I convinced myself is that if anybody behind that door is considering selling at any point in time, that I'm going to be the one that goes above and beyond for that person, and I'm going to be bringing a valuable service to them and do the best job possible. So I would much rather them work with me than somebody that's going to drop the ball and not provide an incredible experience for them. So that's the mindset that I door knocked with, and that showed in the energy that I brought. Is I was there to serve, I wasn't there to sell. Big difference. Selling, serving. If you serve and you lead with your heart, you're going to convert. If you try and just go in with the perspective of selling, that's not going to cut it. Now, another thing mindset-wise that I loved is, maybe this is a bit sick and twisted, but I love the idea of outworking my competition. It goes back to that quote you've probably heard before, is that do today what others won't, so you can have tomorrow what others can't. Right? And I really loved that perspective, especially now with the interest rates and election and, NAR settlement, is that there's a lot of agents becoming lazy, complacent, leaving the industry, tucking their head in their shell, not doing any work. I love that idea of outworking other people. And this is one of the best ways to do it because very few are going to actually do it. And then also, you're one step closer to the life that you want. Every single door, every time you get a no, you're one step closer to a yes. So just keep that in mind, is that you're making progress. Now, this is a quote that I always share with people, and this is one that I believe firmly, is that the hardest door to open is your car door. There are endless times where I've, helped people basically have the entire strategy to door knock, and then they'll call me about 30 minutes into when they were supposed to door knock and say, Mike, I can't even leave my car. I'm so nervous. My heart rate's through the roof. I'm terrified, right? And I say, just go knock that first door. As soon as they get out of their damn car door and they knock that first door and you realize that most people are actually pretty nice, they realize the rejection is not that bad. And then they go on to the next one and the next one and the next one. You just have to get started, right? Have a bit of faith in humanity. If somebody knocks on my door and I'm not interested, I don't yell at them. I don't swear at them. I don't slam the door. I say, no, thank you. Thanks for coming by. Or I take their flyer and say, if I'm interested, I'll let you know. Right? Have a bit of faith in humanity. Most people are actually pretty damn nice. So don't get all worked up about it. Now, the strategy, there's two different strategies that you can leverage. The first is if you have a buyer. The second is if you don't have a buyer. Now, this is how you turn buyers into listings, is that if you have a buyer, every single time, there's a lot of people saying, oh, I've got buyers, but there's no inventory. Great. Create inventory. Don't use that as an excuse to not do anything or that they can't find them the right home. Go door knock, right? And so let's say I'm working with a buyer that wants to work or buy a home in the community that I live in. I would door knock based on their criteria, every home in the vicinity that I know is going to fit their criteria. And it's a very simple approach, which is basically taking the approach of hey, I've got a buyer in the area that's looking to make a move. Your property's looks like a good fit for them. Would you be interested in making a move potentially if you would get the right price? Right? And I'll dial in the scripts in a second here because I've got a slide about that. But if you have a buyer, the essence of that is you should be turning that into listings. Now, this is how I got started. I didn't have a buyer, right? I was a brand new agent. I had no business. So I'm going to show you how to use an MLS search strategy. And what you want to be doing is leveraging an area with high demand, with high turnover, and a reasonable price point to give you the best chance of converting. So now what I want to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and break this down a little bit further. So let's actually walk through what we're going to do here with the scripts. So we're going to pick out the location here, and then I'm going to show you exactly where to go. Okay, so how do we find the right location to door knock? There's going to be a couple things here that are really important. The first, as we talked about, is you want to pick an area that has high turnover and is the average price point with high demand. Yes, you can go door knock to luxury communities. Yes, I did that. Yes, I got results. But again, when you're getting started, you want to put the eggs in your basket that are going to give you the best chance of hatching, right? Which is, where is there a lot of turnover? And also, where is not too far for you to drive to? So if we come here, we look at search. We're going to go to residential, and then let's look at a map. Right? So we're going to look at a map, and this is Calgary, where I live. Now, back when I was door knocking, I lived in this area here called Mackenzie Town. I no longer live there, but this whole southeast area here has really high turnover. The reason being is it has average and above average price points, anywhere from kind of $500,000 to, the house that I'm in is $3 million. But the majority of them is kind of $500,000 to $750,000, $800,000, which is the average price point here. Well, knowing that, there's also a lot of turnover, and there's a lot of people moving up to communities. So they might start in a lower price point community like New Brighton or Copperfield and move up to one of the lake communities like I'm in, like Auburn Bay or Mahogany. So there's a lot of moving within communities. There's a lot of moving up, moving down, moving laterally. But this is where a lot of people stay. So there's a lot of great opportunities here. So what I would do is I would come here and I would filter by sold in the last 30 days. We want to go sold in the last 30 days. Now, I always wanted to do detached because apartments, condos are pretty much impossible to door knock. And I also didn't want to really do townhomes, right? I wanted single family detached properties. And also, I typically wanted them to be over $600,000 just based on the average price point. And what I would do is I would come back to the map and I would draw out a bit of a map here. So let's come back down and look at all the properties here. And this was kind of the areas, as you can see here, that I would door knock. So what we would do is we would draw a little polygon around here. Say, okay, these are the areas that I would like to door knock in. Come down to Mahogany, over here to Seton, and this is kind of the area that I started out with. And so we're going to go ahead and go back to criteria, and then we're going to look at the results. So here's what you want to do. You want to filter by days on market, right? Because you want a success story. You want something that's sold for a high list to sales price with a low days on market. So we're going to filter by days on market. And you can see here, let's look at a couple of these, because the next step is you want a great success story, but also a property that looks great, an area that you want to get into. So let's take a look at some of these properties, right? Listed at, $575, sold for $640 in one day. Pretty great success story. You can see here, listed for $750, sold $750, 3 days. Great. We can look here, sold for just shy of list price and just over. And let's see if we can find one that we really like. So 650 or 950 to 960. This is a good one, right? This is an area that I love, which is Auburn Bay, and it sold in 5 days, sold for $20,000 over list price, listed at 700, sold for 720. So this is an area I really want to do work in, It's got really nice homes that are usually well presented. It's got a great success story, 20K over list price in just 5 days, and it's a single family detached. So here's what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to go to the list and I'm going to look at this. So what this is going to do is it's going to give me the exact location of that property. And you can guess what I'm probably going to do now, which is when it comes to the location, I'm going to door knock every single property within this vicinity as close as possible. So I'm going to probably door knock starting on this corner here all the way down this street and go one of two ways. Either probably this way because this is nice green space, so that's going to give us a high chance to sell if something does, and do a bit of a loop here, and then probably come back and go through all these areas. But you essentially just want to door knock usually about 100 homes on either given side of that property that are going to be familiar with the street, where down the street, based on the script that we're going to use, is actually real, and then we're just going to go. And so I'm going to walk you through exactly what to bring, the exact timing, the exact script to use, but it's just as simple as that. Do a filter of the MLS, find a great success story in an area that you want to work in that has high turnover, with high demand, with properties that look really great, that are going to give you a great chance to sell. Because if you're looking at properties with a great success story, but it's kind of a rundown dump, the question becomes, do you actually want to work in that area? I wanted to work in very specific areas that are kind of the demographic that I prefer. And this is what I did. So now let's jump back into the presentation, go through preparation, timing, script, and follow-up so that you know exactly what to do. Okay, so now that we've identified the exact location that we're going to be door knocking, we need to figure out what the heck to bring and how we should show up. And this is really important. So the first thing that you want to bring is a door hanger or a community market report with success stories, right? And with success stories is going to be people that sold their home for high, list to sales price with low days on market. You also want to make sure that you bring your phone. And I'm going to talk about that because that's going to lead to the follow-up strategy. And you could do this on either some sort of brochure or you could do it on a door hanger. Don't overcomplicate it. Just create something. And again, a community market report is going to be probably the best bang for your buck because it's going to give insight as to how the market is performing in that vicinity. Now, what do you want to wear? You want to wear something professional but comfortable that resonates with the location, and comfortable heels or comfortable shoes. That leads to my point. Ladies, I do not recommend wearing high heels because you're going to be out there for a while and it's going to hurt. So wear something comfortable. But I say professional, but again, resonates with the location. The reason why I say this is because when I first started door knocking in those areas that I showed you where I sold the first couple of properties that I listed, that is a very middle class, blue collar, run of the mill, kind of community here in my city. Well, in the beginning, I showed up in a suit, and the feedback that I got is that, and this is again, nothing against any religion, this is just word from people that I door knocked, is that people would say, I almost didn't open the door because I thought you were a Jehovah's Witness or a religious, group trying to pitch us, right? Because I looked like that. It was a black suit and a white shirt. And I get it because that's what they're familiar with. It's nothing wrong with that. It's just the feedback that I got from many people. So what I started doing is that when I door knocked average price point communities, I would wear a polo, slacks, and comfortable running shoes. So I looked presentable, I had my shirt tucked in, nice pants on, a nice clean polo, but I was relating to that community. But when I door knocked luxury areas, which I did as well, I would wear a suit. I just changed it from black to gray so I didn't look like something that they're familiar with. And it worked really well too. But when I wore a suit in an area that, really didn't resonate with that, it didn't work that well. So just be mindful of where you're door knocking and being able to fit in with what they're expecting. So the timing, this is going to be controversial. So I wanted to have the most number of conversations humanly possible. And you're going to see this here where I door knocked 5 days a week, Monday to Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. So I door knocked 7 days a week for my first 6 months, 3 hours a day. A lot of people are going to see that and say, well, aren't you annoying them? They're having dinner. They're putting babies to sleep, that kind of thing. Yeah, probably did annoy a lot of people. But the thing is I wanted to increase the chances of conversations that I was having. So a lot of people will say, well, door knock at like 11 a.m. Well, now after COVID, there's more people that work from home. This was way before COVID. So there are going to be a few more people home at 11 a.m. Or if you're door knocking an older community where there's more retired people, plus 55, sure, they're going to be home at that time of day. But pre-COVID, when I was door knocking average middle-class families, I knew that they were working 9 to 5. So why would I door knock when nobody was home? And so I door knocked 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. And it converted like crazy because even though I got a lot of no's, it also increased the amount of yeses. Now on weekends, I would allow people to kind of sleep in and also go to church if they're religious on those Sundays. And so I would door knock kind of around 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so that's when I door knocked. Again, I just wanted to have the highest chance of getting somebody face to face versus doors. And we'll get to that as well. So the script, right? The script is always leading with selfless value. Now, one of the things that I see is there's a lot of scripts out there by other coaches. And truthfully, when I read those, if somebody approached me with that script, there's no way I would ever respond to that. Because it's super salesy. Hey, it's Mike Sherrard with eXp Realty. I'm just curious, are you looking to sell your home anytime soon? Like, goodbye. Door shut, right? Very nicely, of course, but I would shut the door. Like, that just doesn't provide value to anybody. It's selfish. So you want to lead with selfless value. You also have to be clear on your goal. Right? So let's talk about that. The two different goals that we talked about. I have a buyer. I don't have a buyer. Well, if you have a buyer, that's a pretty clear goal. You want to find a home for your buyer. So you can knock the door and say something like, hey, it's Mike Sherrard with eXp Realty. I've actually got a buyer that's looking in this community, but unfortunately, there's not many homes on the market. I was just curious because you've got such a beautiful home that looks like it ticks all of their boxes. If you got the right price, would you be willing to entertain somebody writing an offer on your property, right? That's it. Would you be willing to entertain if the price was right? Well, a lot of people are going to say, well, of course, if I got the right price, and that right price could be completely unrealistic, but at least it gets your foot in the door. Now, the other one that I used a lot was if you don't have a buyer. So let me explain based on the location that we found, how I would approach that. I would knock on the door, right? And I would say, hey, my name is Mike Sherrard with eXp Realty. I don't know if you just realized, but 123 Main Street, just down the street, sold for, 104% of list price in just 3 days. I was curious to know if you would be wondering how that might impact the value of your home because I've been getting a lot of questions, right? So let me do that again. The reason why I'm saying that is that it's selfless. Are you curious to know how this might impact the value of your home? Not are you looking to sell. It's about them. So knock on the door and we're going to break the barriers down. I'm going to give you a yes or no scenario. Hey, it's Mike Sherrard with eXp Realty. I don't know if you just realized that 123 Main Street, just down the street, actually sold for 100%, 104% of list price in just 3 days. I was, wondering if you're curious to know how that might impact the value of your incredible property because I've been receiving a lot of questions from others in the area. They're going to say yes or no. If it's yes, of course, pretty obvious, you go to set up the consultation for a listing presentation. If they say no, which is very likely, we go for another selfless value add. They say no. Okay, no worries. I get it. You've got an absolutely gorgeous home, and I know right now might not be the right time. However, many people in our community are set up on my monthly market report, which gives you all of the information that you need to know about how the value of your property is going to be affected over time. You can opt out with one click at any given time, but a lot of people tend to like it. So I'd be wondering if you'd be okay if I sign you up for that monthly market report. That is how I converted. And I'll talk to you about why that converted. Number one, people in our community. Nobody wants to be first. So if you help people understand or just make them think that they're not the only one on that market report, they're much more likely to say yes. Also, they can opt out with one click. That makes it convenient for them and that they're not going to get bombarded and solicited. people are finding value in it. Okay, others are liking it. And it allows them to keep their finger on the pulse of how their home is going to perform over time, which is their greatest investment. Fantastic. Right? So that's how I started to convert. And if they would say no to that, I would say, okay, no problem. Do you know anybody that's looking to make a move anytime in the near future, or anybody that I should talk to? And if they say no to that, I would leave my flyer and be done with it. And that's okay. But that's a really important thing to go with, which is why you can see here a quote from Mama Sherrard, my mom. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. So a lot of people, when they're door knocking, they track their door knocking based on doors. So some coach told them you have to go door knock 100 doors. And what they do is as soon as they get their first no, they leave. Okay, there's one door. They go to the next door. They get an objection. No, okay, no problem. Okay, there's another door next. And they're just trying to get doors. For me, I don't care about doors. I care about conversations. So I would door knock not to get as many doors as possible, but to get as many conversations as possible. So when I would get a no, I would exhaust every single possible objection until I had nothing left before I would get off that doorstep. Instead of doing like most, is you get one rejection and you're on to the next one. Right? That's not it. That's not how you're going to get closed deals. So it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. You need to show up with intent, you need to show up with strategy, and you need to make sure that you exhaust every effort humanly possible when you're face to face with somebody. Now, let's look at the goals or the notes, right, when you leave at the doorstep. So if you have a conversation with somebody, this is where the game is won. You need to write down their home address. This is why I would say bring your cell phone, because I would do it in notes. Their names, right? Name or names if it's one or two people. But most importantly, personal notes. Did they have any pets? Did they have a kid in their arm? Was there any unique features of the house that you could pick up on? Did they have a nice car in the driveway, or anything that you can note, a beautiful garden? Because that's what we're going to bring into our follow-up to strategically convert. So now let's look at this, the follow-up. I would always follow up when I get home. When they remember me, it's fresh, it's top of mind. I'm going to email every single person that I door knocked as soon as I get home from that door knocking session. I would write a personal email to all of them. Now, I'll talk about what you should be doing now, but this is what I did back before video was a thing. And so what I would do is I would say, hey, Sarah, thanks so much for taking the time today to open your door. I know that you're busy, but I really appreciate you having that incredible conversation with me. Again, as mentioned, I'm going to set you up on the monthly market report. Let me know if you have any questions. And by the way, I just wanted to say you had the cutest puppy. I couldn't stop thinking about it all day long. And, I hope you enjoy the rest of the summer. If you have any questions about the real estate market, or if you know anybody that's looking to make a move, feel free to contact me here at any time. I'm always here to help, and I hope to get to see you around sometime soon. Sign off, your name, right? Make sure that it's personal to them, because everybody appreciates that, instead of just some templated message. Now, again, as you can see here, in the modern day, what I would do is I would actually record a Loom video saying it. And I would add in that personal touch, that video touch. And I like Loom just because it's super easy, and it's actually literally what I'm recording this very video on right now for you. But that's just going to go that extra mile. So always do a personal email with a video. Now add them to your CRM and set up the monthly market report, which you promised them. Or of course, if you struck a bit of gold and you were able to get the seller, listing presentation, then set that up, of course. But here's also what I did, because I would take note of any of the really great conversations that I had that I thought could materialize into something more. Like, it seemed like they were actually considering making a move at some point. And what I would do here is every Christmas, I would handwrite a personalized holiday card for them. And I would send it to their address, because I had their address, I had their name, I also had the personal touches, and I would handwrite that out. And usually I would do a few hundred every single Christmas. And a lot of times people would remember me, and I would put my contact information, and that's how I started to get referral clients from those holiday cards. And that worked incredibly well. So that's the door knocking strategy. It's pretty simple, but it's hyper effective. And it's not just worked for me, but again, I've helped a ton of agents this very year with all the changes happening implement this, and the majority of them have come back to my Zoom calls and my mastermind calls and have told me the next week that they got their first listing presentation, or they got a bunch of leads, or people signing up on their market report. So if you have any questions about anything that I walk through, just drop a comment below. I'm here to help. I want to see you win, and I just want to see you build massive momentum during this crazy time. Remember, do not give up. I know it's wild right now, but you could do it if you stay committed. Remember, done is better than perfect, and I can't wait to see you get out there and start to generate your next listings.